Hello and welcome to episode number 193, where I'm speaking with Divya Alter about mindful eating and meal portioning. Divya shares her relationship with food from an early age, and she talks to us about establishing a mindful relationship with food and tips for mindful eating. So please stay tuned. Hello and welcome to the Elements of Ayurveda podcast. I'm your host Colette, and I hope to educate and empower you to take charge of your health and well-being, preventing disease in the body and mind so that you can thrive in life. I will be sharing the holistic teachings of Ayurveda, the ancient healing tradition from India. I will also discuss topics like yoga, which is the sister science of Ayurveda, health and wellness, nutrition, fitness, and mindfulness practices, as well as interviewing lots of inspiring people along the way. My humble wish is to help you to connect to your true nature, to Mother Nature, and to help you to connect to each other. If you're new to Ayurveda, I recommend that you start by listening to the first couple of episodes where I do an introduction to Ayurveda and the mind-body types. Now, if you like the content, please subscribe to the show so the new episodes will automatically download for you to enjoy. I've also set up a new private community away from social media on my new website, Elements Healing and Wellbeing. Now, this community provides a safe space for like-minded people to come together, to connect, to share, and to support each other. And I have many other perks in this community as well, so check it out. I'll put the link in the show notes or visit my website, elementshealingandwellbeing.com, and just click on the community tab in the menu. I hope you can join us. I'm looking forward to a lot more in-depth connection and conversation over there. And now, here's the show. This episode is sponsored by Kerala Ayurveda Academy. Do you want to lead a more holistic life in tune with nature and inspire those around you? Deepening your study of Ayurveda can help you to achieve this and so much more. Study of the Vedas is like a roadmap to uncovering your true self. Ayurveda not only supports your health, but it also addresses all aspects of your life. You have a unique life purpose or dharma, and learning Ayurveda can help you to align with it. Kerala Ayurveda Academy is a full-spectrum Ayurvedic company with deep roots in India, offering education, wellness, and herbal products. You can study online or in person and train in awe-inspiring Kerala, India, the birthplace of these ancient traditions. If you'd like to deepen your study in authentic teachings from Ayurveda, visit keralaayurveda.us to learn more. That's keralaayurveda.us, and you'll also find the link in the show notes. Hello and welcome back to the Elements of Ayurveda podcast. Today I'm always happy to welcome regular guest Divya Alter to the podcast. Divya is a certified nutritional consultant, educator, and co-founder of Bhagavat Life, the only Ayurvedic culinary school in Manhattan. She and her husband Prentice also own Divya's Kitchen, an Ayurvedic restaurant, also in Manhattan. And Divya is the author of What to Eat for How You Feel, the new Ayurvedic kitchen. Divya, welcome back to the podcast. Always lovely to have you.
Thank you so much, Colette. I really feel at home now with the Elements of Ayurveda podcast. I'm so happy to be back.
Well, I always love chatting with you, and I'm looking forward to this conversation today on mindful eating and meal portioning, which is a question I get a lot. And I think, Divya, I'd love to start by talking about the relationship with food, and our formative relationship is, of course, in our home, right? And what we experienced growing up. Can you share with us a bit about your relationship with food? What has been your experience?
Yeah, well, I'm going to feel a little vulnerable today because meal portioning and this part of my relationship with food has been a journey for me and something like part of my human experience, something that I need to grow through. And I grew up in Bulgaria during communist time, and I mean, my family never starved, but we had very limited access to a variety of food. So we never had a big variety of ingredients, even though we could have, like, there's so many more vegetables and fruits that could be grown in the country, but we had one type of sunflower oil. There was no olive oil, you know. It was one type of butter. You just go to the grocery store and you just have one kind of everything in a limited amount. So I grew up in a culture that posed a lot of restrictions, and also we were kind of disconnected from most countries in the world. So I've never really tried Indian cuisine or any kind of, basically anything else but European cuisine outside growing up. So my relationship with food started with kind of, I don't want to say exactly deprivation, but limited choices, let's put it that way. And my family, I was lucky because my family, and it was very much part of the culture at that time, we always cooked fresh meals at home. So we rarely ate leftovers or ate out. We would just cook fresh meals at home. And my dad was the main cook, a really great cook. And but the thing that I grew up with is don't waste food. So because of the limitation and because of the lack of variety, like, I was taught that I have to eat everything on my plate.
I had that too. There's like I was reminded there was other people in the world who were going hungry.
Yeah, exactly. And did you feel the guilt? It's like, I'm wasting, I don't want to waste it, so I will eat it. And that's, I mean, I'm all for not wasting food, but the thing is that eating everything on my plate, even while I'm completely full, I often overate. So in the sense of, like, my perception of deprivation led me to eat too much, which is kind of strange. But and then later on, it was like, but how is it overeating a good thing, right?
Yes.
So later on with Ayurveda, I understood that actually when you eat too much, that's one of the main causes of disease. It really burdens your digestion, and it causes a lot of, it kind of, you abuse your body when you eat too much, like more than you can handle. So that's how we started. And in the beginning also, I was not eating in a very, I was not eating with self-awareness. You know, Ayurveda speaks a lot about increasing our self-awareness with food, but also with everything else that we do. That's one of the benefits of following an Ayurvedic lifestyle. But I would just eat, you know, whatever is available. I'm hungry. Oh, I need to put something in my mouth. I just need to eat something. So I didn't really discriminate much about or think about nutrition, because later on, being trained as a chef, I for some time I was a foodie. You know, I would go to different places and try different things and look into the creative expressions, like, oh wow, you can take the water of the cooked chickpeas and make vegan, what is the word of that dessert that I never eat?
Oh, you can use the water of the chickpea as an egg white replacement, right?
The water, the aquafaba. And I'm like, yeah, that's fine. I mean, it's fun to do that, and I actually did it just for the fun of it because I was a foodie. But it's like, what's the point of this? This is not nurturing my body, really. So and also for some time I would try creating something, like taking a vegetable and making something completely different out of it, and you'll never guess that there is an eggplant in this dessert, you know. And I was just curious because I wanted to see, oh wow, this is how you can process and transform food in different ways. But now I'm not a foodie anymore, I have to confess.
Okay.
I'm so grateful for Ayurveda and all my teachers, because I really see food as a source of nourishment, not entertainment. And I'm not, even with our restaurant and my cookbooks and my recipes, I don't try to create recipes for show, you know. Of course, I'll make it beautiful and tasty and all that, but not just because I want the food or the plate to look in a particular way, but because I really want to provide deep nourishment for myself and for others.
Yeah, that's really beautiful that your goal is more nourishment than producing this kind of sexy dish that's going to, look amazing, but maybe have the wrong qualities for your body.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it can be really beautiful and fancy. I like the word sexy. Yeah, but again, what's the point of it? If you eat that food and it gives you digestive problems and reactions, and you don't feel truly nourished, you're hungry again, or you don't feel satisfied, what's the point of you? So, and that's kind of also the yogic perspective on food. Food is a sacred act of eating food is a sacred act of nourishment. And nourishment, not just like filling your stomach and getting energized, but the kind of food that's bioavailable to deeply nourish every tissue in our body. Yeah. So that's what Ayurveda calls patya. Patya means wholesome food. And that's what I'm interested in today.
Very good. Beautiful. And so you grew up with your dad being the cook. So your dad was passionate about cooking. Is that correct to say?
Yeah. He's still alive. He's a great forager. He knows all the mushrooms and all the herbs in the forest. And,
oh, wow.
And we always had even if it's like a tiny piece of land to grow something, we just even my mom, both of them, my mom and my dad, they're separated, but they all have their gardens and they grow so many of their like especially produce. So I'm really lucky that I grew up in such culture, because it helped me appreciate food from seed to table, so to say, or from soil to table.
Yes. Yeah. And with so many people now, especially children, not understanding where the food comes from, literally thinking it comes from the supermarket, that's the start of the journey. I think that's so important. I think you have so much more of appreciation for your food when you have grown it and nurtured it yourself.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And so did that relationship that you had with food from an early age, you realized that your father was putting a lot of passion into it, a lot of emphasis on it. But then there was this, you must eat, clear your plate. So that was causing you to overeat. Did that continue with you as you left home?
I believe it did, but I wasn't so much aware of it. Yeah. And just a month ago, as I was writing an entry on meal portioning for my new cookbook, I was like, I just noticed that, oh my God, I'm still overeating.
Yeah.
And the reason, but this time it's a different twist for me. It's because the food is so good. Because this time I'm like, oh wow, this is really tasty. I don't want to waste it. So I'm still carrying this notion, but I feel so full, but I have 2 bites on the plate, and it's like, this is so good. I don't want to waste this. I'm going to eat it.
Right.
And then I would notice that, not with every meal, I'm a lot more conscious now, but I would notice that, and then I feel so heavy and tired, and I have to rest, and my energy goes down because I ate too much. So I think a lot of people nowadays overeat, either consciously or unconsciously, simply because we have such an abundance of food.
Yeah.
So it's the other side, the other opposite. You can overeat from deprivation because you don't know when your next meal will be or whatever, or there's just so much food.
Yeah.
And you overeat. And another way that a lot of people overeat nowadays is snacking.
Yeah.
So you have a meal, and then 2 hours later, let me have some chips. Let me have some fruit. Let me drink this smoothie. And just by eating before your previous meal has been fully digested, which in a healthy person takes about 4 hours, just keep putting food in your mouth. This is the kind of overeating that a lot of people experience today, and that leads to obesity and a lot of diet-related health issues.
So true, so true. And then there can be a lot, of course, emotional eating as well, eating because maybe it's dehydration and that sense is pretty weak, and sometimes we mistake it for hunger. And so it's great to have awareness around that on when you're reaching for that snack and it's only an hour or two after eating a big meal, to reflect on what is actually happening and what's coming up for you. Why are you reaching for that snack? Is it true hunger? Is it real signs of hunger, or is it something else?
Yeah, exactly. Well, I have a theory about this. Okay. You want to hear my theory?
Please tell me your theory.
So, at least two theories, two reasons, two causes. One is that, eating heavily processed foods that are high calorie and low nutrient foods. So all these foods you eat and they fill your stomach, but they don't nourish you. So your body keeps asking. It's like, give me something more nourishing. Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it's not like the body is not really craving quantity of food, it's craving nutrients.
Yeah.
So we may get this craving or this urge to eat more simply because the food we're eating is so poorly nutritious. And also, I see this with our restaurant, with Divya's Kitchen. People eat a lot of fast food, and it looks like a large portion for very cheap.
Yes.
And then they come to our restaurant. I mean, Divya's Kitchen offers very generous portions, I think. But still, if you have a smaller portion of very nourishing food, you will be satiated with a smaller portion and faster than eating a larger portion of nutrient depleted food.
Yeah.
So that's the idea again. People are looking for quantity and not for nutrition.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with you totally. And also, I believe that there should be a certain quantity of fat as well to keep you satiated and to keep that full feeling. If you have a meal that has been cooked without any fat, without any olive oil or anything like that, that it won't quite satiate you.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
So
but the good types of fats that we discussed in our previous.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. Of course. Yes. The good types of fat that I think it's important to have that in a meal in order to satiate you and keep you fuller longer.
Yeah.
And so how did your relationship with food shift? I know you spent a lot of time in India, for example.
Yeah. I mean, I don't like talking about myself, but I like sharing my lessons learned.
Yes.
So I'm happy to speak about my relationship with food because I hope that somebody else is struggling with this and maybe it will be inspiring for them.
Yes, thank you.
So when I went to India, I went to India to study yoga and to deepen my spiritual practice, and I also studied philosophy and all kinds of other things at the Vrindavan Institute for Higher Education. So I lived a monastic type of life. So, and when you study the Bhagavat Gita and other sacred texts, especially in the Vedic tradition, there is a lot of talk about spirituality and renunciation and detachment and letting go of your material attachments and things like that. So I really delve into it, and I was very happy with my spiritual education. I lived a very simple life and just really very few material possessions, and I was really happy doing that. And this period helped me grow as a person. This is like my character formation, so to say, in my 20s.
Okay.
And it really helped me to develop the sense of servitude toward others and just less ego and all that. So, but also in my attempt to be detached and to give up material entanglement, which is a good thing, but it has to be done right.
Yes.
I kind of desensitized myself. I really didn't pay attention to my ability, to my sensory perceptions so much. And I consciously try not to enjoy food or anything my senses were perceiving. I try not to enjoy it. I would kind of block myself.
Oh, really? Purposely, you're blocking yourself from the pleasures.
Yeah, because it's like I don't want to get attached, and I don't want to get entangled, and yeah. So so this is like the other opposite. Like from overindulging in food, I stopped. I mean, I would eat food and notice it's tasty, but I wouldn't go like, oh my god, this is so good. And really, so part of maturing emotionally and spiritually, and I really owe a lot to my husband for this. He really has helped me grow up as a human being and also in my spiritual practice. But I had to relearn how to find joy in life and connect it with spirit. So I misunderstood. I had a distorted understanding of renunciation and detachment, and I kind of thought that it's to suffer is a sacred act.
Yeah, like an austere life.
Yeah. So now my practice is to really, it's if I like something, it's like sit with it. It's like, oh wow, this is really amazing. But also connect it with the source. When you make a spiritual connection, connected with the divine source of this beauty, then there is no fear of material entanglement. So this is a little bit about my I'm still on the path. I'm not liberated or anything, but just switching my perception of detachment has helped me. So now my practice is to really learn how to metabolize joy and pleasure. So when I eat the food slowly and mindfully, and we can talk about these practices also, but please. When I presence myself and when I experience that joy and let it rewire me, internalize it, then actually I'm satisfied with less food. So what I experience when I really pay attention to the enjoyment, to the joy and the pleasure of eating food consciously, I eat less, but I enjoy more.
Yeah. And that's it, isn't it? Food is one of the great pleasures of life. And a lot of times if I talk to clients and, there's that pleasure is gone. And I think that's such a shame. And there's various different relationships going on with food, but the pleasure of eating is gone. And I think that's so important to bring back that pleasure of eating. And with that pleasure comes a respect for the food and also just more attention put on it, because a lot of times what's happening in our culture, because food is so abundant, we're eating while we're driving, we're eating while we're working. It's just something that we do passively now without taking great care and attention. So how do we begin to draw awareness to our eating practices? How do we begin to establish that relationship again? Do you have, your own experience to share or tips for people?
Yeah, I mean, you put it so beautifully. We take food for granted, and we just kind of eat it in between.
Right, while we're driving from one place to another.
Yeah, exactly. And this is one of the other reasons for overeating is we don't presence ourselves to the food. We distract ourselves, whether we're watching TV or reading a book or maybe talking too much with friends. I mean, it's okay to socialize once in a while and eat a meal with friends and laugh and enjoy. And I think this is another way of enjoyment. But as a daily practice, if we keep distracting ourselves, we don't pay attention to the food. So we kind of automatically eat more of it.
Yeah.
So one of my, I've been really practicing more of mindful eating.
Mm.
And I'm very grateful for my teachers and also the healers that I work with. They've guided me through this, because for me, I really had to relearn. Just the fact of sitting down in front of my plate and presencing myself with gratitude. It's like not doing anything else. I'm a very Vata person. I love to multitask. So just for me to just presence and to say thank you. And I always say a little blessing. I chant a mantra before I eat. But then looking at your plate and then smelling it. So engaging the sense of sight and the sense of smell. This already signals your brain about, and the brain says, okay, we're about to eat this. And the brain says, okay, please stomach release this enzyme. Please mouth release this enzyme.
Right, exactly. It's preparing you. Yeah.
Exactly. So we start secreting, like our body starts secreting the enzymes that will help digest exactly this type of food that's in front of us. And then slowing down. So you're sitting down, and what I do is, as much as possible, I actually eat with my fingers.
Yes.
It's one of the first things I learned at the ashram, actually, like 30 years ago. That my parents spent so much time teaching me how to use a fork and a knife and which side is the fork and the... Right. And then I went to the ashram and we sat on the floor and we used our fingers.
But such a more intimate practice, and it just makes it a greater connection. And have just the right portion size for like mouthful.
Exactly, yeah. And also the sense of touch. You're engaging your sense of touch. Exactly. So it's already 3 senses before you put it in your mouth. And you can also notice the temperature. So if it's too hot for your fingers, it's too hot for your mouth.
Yes, very true.
And just like you said, if you use your 5 fingers, and they say use your right hand, because that's like in Vedic culture, use your left hand to clean your body, so you use your right hand to eat and to give things like that. So use your right hand, and then how much food can you fit within your 5 fingers, right? It's exactly the morsel portion for your mouth. So that's part of portioning.
Yes.
It's not just how much you eat, but how much you put in your mouth. And if you're very hungry, you notice when you're very hungry, we just want to devour the food.
Yes.
and we put way too much, and you keep putting food in your mouth before you fully chew it. Yeah. And so slowing down is very important. And portioning your morsels and chewing them well until they fully masticated and swallowing. And as you swallow, it's like, and if you like it, if you really enjoy it, just pause and revel in that pleasure,
Yeah. It's so important because, like I said, so many of us can be distracted when we're eating. But I do think it's really important. I really encourage clients is when you sit with your food for the amount of time, the little amount of time that you are eating, just eat. Say something over your food, whether it's saying thanks or chanting or a little mantra or whatever works for you, that it's just acknowledging this food and as an offering to your body as well. And that it's an important practice, not only to nourish you, but for your health, your healing.
Yeah, exactly. So beautiful. And also, I mean, just say, like, when you express the gratitude you're talking about, you're like feeling that gratitude for the gift of food. This is how we don't take it for granted. But also the sense of gratitude really connects you on a more spiritual level with the plant or the herb or whatever, the grain, whatever you're having for your meal. And this is just, and then you'll be surprised. I mean, you personally know, Colette, because I know you eat like that, but our listeners, you guys will be surprised if you actually eat with your fingers. You can do it when you're alone at home and nobody is watching, and even if it's a little messy, don't worry, but just try it at least once.
Yeah.
And yes, and slowly, not too slow. So ideally, your meal should take 20 to 30 minutes, because eating too fast or eating too slow also affects digestion negatively. But when you eat with self-awareness like this, it really strengthens your digestion, but it also strengthens the immune system.
Right. And of course, when you're eating in the right environment, that is with less distractions and less, external stimulation, that your energy can be focused on the digestion of your food.
Yeah, and then you actually, it's so much easier to listen to your body.
Yes.
And really intuitively, you know when to stop. You know that you know when to stop, and you know that, okay, I'm satisfied now. I can stop now. And then just sitting a little bit after your meal before you get up, that helps too.
Absolutely. Yeah. I always say to someone, like, you could even have, some hot water or herbal tea that you're just sipping on, but not to jump up and start doing something else after you eat.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So can we talk a little bit about meal portion size? Because that's a big one for people. And what Ayurveda recommends and suggestions that you may have in this.
I know, yeah, there's so many opinions, isn't it? And
Yeah.
I've seen it in different classical books, like Charaka Samhita would say slightly different proportions to the Ashtanga Hridayam, for example. But I'm currently studying Ashtanga Hridayam with the Dinacharya masterclasses led by Dr. Baswati Bhattacharya. And we just finished the chapter 9 on Matra Shitiyam, which is Matra means quantity or measurement. And we spoke a lot about quantity, not just quantity of food, but also proportions, like amount of different tastes and different ingredients within your meal. So that's part of the matra, the measurement. So it's very interesting. Ayurveda doesn't speak about the amount of calories per meal, which is the nutrition. Because everybody has different capacity to ingest food, different stomach capacity. So Ayurveda gives a personalized measurement, individual measurement called Anjali. And everybody's Anjali is different. So Anjali is when you take your 2 palms, you put them together like a bowl, like you want to fill your palms with water. Like that's called an Anjali, the 2 palms together. So the general recommendation is to have 2 Anjalis per meal.
Yeah.
So the amount of food that you can fit in your 2 pounds times 2.
Yes.
that includes also the liquids. So that's like 2 Anjalis. And everybody's Anjali is different. A child's Anjali is smaller. Somebody has bigger body, bigger hands. They need more quantity of food. But that's the general, and that's for a person who is very healthy. Now, some people are they have a very weak digestive system, and for them, this could be too much food.
Yeah.
Or some people might have expanded stomach, because the stomach is like it's a muscle. You can stretch it.
Yes, indeed.
And some people who are used to overeating for a long time, they might need more than 2 Anjalis. But in general, and then if you want to divide it, like your unique stomach, Ashtanga Hridayam recommends to have half full with solid food, a quarter full with liquid, and this could be from a soup or tea or water, and then 1/4 empty. So you need to leave a little space empty in the stomach, just to help the food masticate and churn and easily move to the next stage of digestion. So when you feel like you're so full, like you're up to your neck, you're like really stuffed.
Yes.
You overeat.
Yeah.
And Colette, one thing I noticed is that a lot of people associate being full with being stuffed. Being full with feeling heavy.
Yeah.
And I mean, I think that's something we should train our children, like to know when to stop to eat, what's their capacity, and to honor when they say, I'm not hungry anymore. I that's like, it should be part of everybody's upbringing. But If you're trained that, just eat everything or eat until you're completely full and you can hardly breathe, like we sometimes do this on holidays.
Yes.
So then you're really stressing your digestive system, and you won't be able to break everything down and assimilate everything, so your body will create AMA. AMA is the semi-digested food that becomes one of the main causes for disease.
Yes, indeed. And it's so true that sometimes people wait till that really full feeling before they stop. Now, it has been said in Ayurveda that, and I don't think I've actually ever said it on the podcast before because I don't think it's a clear indicator for everyone, but that first burp is when you should stop eating. Have you heard of this?
Yeah, well, the first time I heard this was in at the yoga ashram I was in, because there is a saying, and there probably is a verse somewhere that says that. Yeah. I just haven't seen it. That says that if you stop eating after your first burp, you're a yogi. You can control your senses. Okay. You have self-control.
Okay.
If you keep eating and you get the second burp and you stop eating at that time, you're a bhogi. Bhogi means enjoyer, like you like to enjoy. And if you keep eating after the second burp, you are a rogi. Rogi means a sick person.
Yeah.
So that's how I first heard about it. And I mean, I noticed with myself, when my digestion is good, when I'm in good health, I notice my first burp, and I notice that it's like, okay, I'm satisfied now. And sometimes I have two spoonfuls left, and I'm like, okay, I'll eat that too.
Yes.
But a lot of people, especially if you're distracting yourself, or if you have chronic digestive issues, you may get your first burp way too early, or you may not get it at all, or you may not pay attention to it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I don't think this is a good indicator for everyone. I think you should have more awareness of how you feel in your body, and eating at a pace where you can monitor how you're feeling, so that you're not eating so fast that the food is literally still going through your stomach and you're going for a second portion.
Yes. Yeah. So that's why I think the beauty of presencing yourself and mindfully eating is one of the best ways to eat the right portion for you. And, different days, maybe your portion also depends on physical activity. So if you did a lot of heavy physical work, you will need a bigger portion because you burnt a lot of energy.
Right, exactly.
So it depends. The portion also depends on your age. Like young people eat a lot because they're still growing, right? Portion depends on the state of your Agni, like the digestive fire. It's like how strong your Agni is. It depends on the condition of your doshas, how hungry you are. Like it may be time for meal and you kind of hungry, but not super hungry, so you need a smaller portion.
Yes, yeah. And also the season affects your digestion and how hungry you are as well, right? In summer, you'll be less hungry.
Exactly, yeah. For most people, like I get very hungry in the summer if I'm up in the mountains and I'm hiking all day in fresh air.
Right. But if you're in hot weather, the digestion gets a little bit weaker. And I find that when it's hot, I lose my hunger. Yeah,
for most people, yes. Yeah. So again, being self-awareness. It really boils down to self-awareness, and then determining your portion, and also not having too much liquid. So again, half of the food should be solid and 1/4 liquid.
Yeah.
For best digestion.
Yeah. And then be careful how you're drinking the liquid. So making sure that it's ideally a hot liquid, and just sipping it, right? You're not gulping half an hour before or during or after your meal, because that would really affect digestion.
Yeah. It's like pouring water on fire. So,
yes.
So, and this is also part of portioning, Colette. So people think, portion is just how much I'm eating. But portioning, again, is the proportions of different types of foods that you're eating. So the liquids, the solids, the lickable foods.
Yeah.
So so the proportions also vary according to your needs, and sometimes people just cannot chew. Like when I had my dental surgeries, I couldn't chew for a week, so I had all my food was liquefied. But again, this is a specific condition, so it also depends your portions, and the proportions of your portion depends also on your condition as well.
Yeah, when you have this mindful eating practices, it brings so much pleasure back to eating, right? It makes it an event. And I think it's also important that you're not just eating, at the kitchen counter or something, that you set a place for yourself, that you make it something that's an important part of your day, and that you block time in your calendar. I've definitely started doing that and making sure that I'm sitting, eating without distraction, and making my place nice, the place where I am eating nice.
Yeah, sounds great. And also, and when you feel that pleasure, like really internalize it and like own it.
Yeah.
Because I think a lot of people overeat also because they just don't have pleasure in life, and just especially eating sugary foods. It just sweet taste gives the sense of pleasure. It just mentally, and people keep eating and eating too much and too frequently because they're just trying to make up for the pleasure they're lacking in life. But if you do that and you really don't internalize that pleasure, if you're just eating without feeling the pleasure, then you keep eating. So that's why I think metabolizing joy and pleasure in our relationship with food is just so important, because it will really help us overcome food addictions.
Oh, absolutely. And I think one of my favorite things is to go for a meal, like a lunch, and spend 3-4 hours at the table talking. And that was very normal when I lived in France. We would go out for lunch on a Sunday and we would spend hours at the table. And so it's a whole event. And sometimes in some cultures, I feel that you go out for a meal and it's just, okay, let's just get this eaten and out of here and on to the next thing. And I'm always like, no, this is the event. Like I want, sometimes in restaurants here in the States, they give you the check. Whereas in some places in Europe, that's considered rude to give the check to someone before they ask for it, to give the bill to somebody before they ask for it, because it's such an event and that you don't disturb that event. So I do think making meals like that when you have a day off and you can cook this great meal in the middle of the day when your digestive fire is strongest, and gathering friends and having this being an all-day event where you're going to just, have great conversation over a meal. That's one of my most favorite things.
Yeah, exactly. And this is also because you're connecting with the people you love.
Right.
And food is the bridge.
Yes.
It's like the loving exchange.
Yeah.
That food is what connects us. Right. I have to tell you, Colette, most great things start at the table, at the kitchen table.
Yes, indeed. And I think where I learned, I used to overeat a lot. I used to be an emotional eater. And I think what shifted my relationship was definitely doing Ayurvedic cleanses on a regular basis, because I learned how much my body really needed to be satisfied. And that doing that on a regular basis really conditioned my body to understanding how much food I really needed to feel satisfied versus how much it was more of the emotional eating. And I hear that feedback from people again and again who go through the cleanses with me is, oh, I realize that I'm actually satisfied with a lot less food. But like you said, food that is prepared lovingly and nutritious and with good fats that will really satisfy your senses.
Yeah. I mean, that's a great point. Like, especially for those of our listeners who need to reset, like you used to one way of eating and you want to really change that. Doing a guided cleanse, I know you that's very important to you, and it should be important for everyone, but somebody guiding you through a cleanse will really help you reset not only your digestion, but also your relationship with food, your meal portioning, and in general how you perceive food also.
Yeah. And again, it's such an integral part of our life that, and it's a great break in our day as well, I think, Divya. You know, if we're in this kind of culture now where it's quite intense and our days are quite busy, that sectioning out that time and really holding that time sacred for the 20 minutes that you are eating, that you block everything, you block your calendar, and that this is a break in your day where you really get to nourish yourself with good food, that's something to look forward to in the middle of your busy day, that you get that break. And I think that's really important.
Yeah, and I encourage everybody to try that at least once, or try it for a week, because you would be surprised the benefits that you get from this type of mindful eating practice. I really challenge our listeners right now, like, please try it, guys, because you would be surprised that it just emotionally, you'll notice how much more peaceful you are. You will notice benefits for yourself, and you will notice things about yourself that you never noticed before. Absolutely. And also things about food when you actually taste. Oh, wow, this is sweet. Oh, I can really taste the astringency of this dish. Oh, and here's where the bitter taste is coming from. Yeah. So you really start to experience the 6 tastes of food as well.
Yeah, and I think the more connection you have, the more awareness you have then of the effect on your body, but also of how the food is making you feel, and then when you feel full enough to stop eating.
Yeah.
And so, Divya, as we finish up here, do you have any tips on how to be satisfied with a smaller meal portion? I mean, something I'm thinking of is I always eat out of a bowl. And I think that, you know, just visually, if we're eating two handfuls of food, that can look like it's, you know, it's quite substantial if it's in a bowl.
Yeah.
Which it is substantial. But yeah.
It is, yeah. So if you're hungry, you know, if you have really good hunger, that 2 angelis will not be too much for you.
No.
But again, it depends on so many things that we mentioned before. Well, I also wanted to touch, before we go there, could we touch a little bit about eating too less?
Yeah, please. Yes.
So, because I think a lot of people who try to overcome overeating, then they start eating too little.
Yeah.
And not having, eating, if you don't eat enough, unless there's some extreme circumstances where you don't have enough food around. If your portion is too small, this will also lead to dosha imbalance, and emotionally you'll be dissatisfied. You will be hungry 2 hours later, and you have to eat again. So again, eating too little can also be a problem. And a lot of people, especially I have friends who try to lose weight, and it's like, oh, I'm just going to eat this much. But then an hour later, they're hungry again. Right. And then they eat again.
Right.
So again, instead of eating the right portion, so find what's the right portion for you. That's satisfying, and that keeps you satisfied and satiated for at least 4 hours, not 4.
Right.
And this, if you're able to switch from processed frozen meals and packaged foods and fast food, the less nutritious foods, to wholesome, fresh foods, you'll feel satisfied and satiated faster because you're getting more nutrition that way.
Absolutely.
And then making sure that you cook, we have good amount of good fats, especially cultured ghee. Ayurveda mentions that one of the benefits of cooking with ghee is that it satiates you. Ghee satiates you with less amount of food without gaining fat. Yeah. Especially the cultured ghee that we make at Divya's Kitchen. Or olive oil or coconut oil if you can digest it. So make sure that you have good amount of fat, because fat transforms into energy. Fat is a good source of energy, and when it's not the polyunsaturated, heavy to digest fats, that clog your body, you can totally process it without gaining fat. Again, being mindful and practicing the exercises that we spoke about, that can help. And also, another thing that really helps, like Ayurveda speaks about 6 tastes of food, and astringent taste is recommended to end your meal with an astringent taste.
Yeah.
Of food with astringent taste. Because see, the action of astringent foods is they draw water in. That's why astringent foods really help with absorption, and too much of them can constipate you. You're drawing in too much.
Drying.
But yeah, so if you end with a food, it could be just one bite of food with astringent taste, it will kind of dry up your tongue a little bit. And
that's interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, it's so interesting.
Yeah.
And it signals your body, it's like, okay, this is the end of the meal.
Right. And just for people who are unaware, because the water on your tongue is responsible for the taste. You need water in order to taste food. You can't really taste with a dry tongue.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, we did this, we just had Dr. Baswati Bhattacharya calls it the Rasa laboratory in our master classes. And rasa means taste.
Yeah.
So she would have us dry our tongue. And then put salt and sugar, and you couldn't say which is which. You can't taste anything on the dry.
So that's really interesting concept, to have that astringent taste at the end of a meal, to draw that sense of taste, to withdraw it, basically.
Yeah. So I like raw, good quality raw honey is of astringent taste. It's sweet, but it's actually predominantly astringent. And sometimes I just end my meal with a tiny spoon of raw honey, and you would notice, actually, if you keep it in your mouth, you notice the astringency, how it becomes it a little dry, it almost squeaky. It dries, it's a little drying and a little squeaky. And I also, so Ayurveda recommends to lick some of your food. You can lick it. So I lick my honey.
Very good. Oh, so what's the benefit of licking?
It's just the different sensory muscular experience in the mouth. So, you can drink it, you can chew it, swallow it, lick it.
Very interesting.
So that's another way to have a wholesome meal, if by ingesting food, engaging different parts of your mouth.
Yeah, and I love the honey because a lot of people love to end their meal with a sweet taste, and oftentimes it's dessert. So this could be a great alternative for those of you who are like, I need that something sweet at the end of a meal. And that's very common. So the honey would be perfect for that.
Yeah, it is sweet. It will satisfy your sweetness. But if you actually pay attention, you'll notice that it's more astringent than sweet because it creates this dryness in you.
Right.
In your mouth.
But it will satisfy that sweet craving as well.
Exactly. Yeah. Otherwise, buttermilk, like fresh buttermilk, you can add spices to it. That's another astringent taste. It's like a classic way to add your lunch in Ayurveda. Not too much, like 4, 5, 6 ounces of buttermilk.
Can I ask you how you make that?
Well, I mean, there are 2 ways of making it. The best way is when you take heavy cream, you culture it, and then you churn the heavy cream to make cultured butter, to make your ghee. Yeah. So the byproduct, when you churn the heavy cultured cream, it separates into butter and buttermilk. Okay. So it has to be the cultured buttermilk, not from just churning. It has to have the fermentation. Yes. So buttermilk is astringent taste predominantly. The other way is to just dilute yogurt, like plain, whole, good quality yogurt. And depending on your digestion, it could be 20% yogurt and 80% water. Or if you have stronger digestion, it can be 40-60 or 50-50. And you kind of really churn it a little bit or whisk it. And
so you're making like a lassi.
Yeah, so lassi is a little heavier. Lassi is more has more yogurt,
Okay.
and buttermilk is more watery. So there is a difference between the two.
Okay. And so some good herbs to add to the buttermilk at the end of a meal.
Well, I mean, depends for your type of digestion and the dosha that you want to balance.
But just say for the astringent taste.
So adding some cilantro. What you can do, I have these recipes in my cookbook, what to eat for how you feel. So you put it in a blender, and if you want to be really, really Ayurvedic, before you put anything into the buttermilk, just blend it a little bit and skim the froth that comes on top. That's more fatty. So by skimming the fatty froth, it makes the buttermilk even lighter. So that's recommended for people with weak digestive fire. And then you can add cilantro, like leaves, a little bit, and toasted cumin. So cumin is slightly pungent, but also astringent. So that adds more astringency to it as well.
Great.
A tiny pinch of salt. So that will make it more astringent.
Perfect. Okay, great. That sounds lovely. I love the idea of the astringent taste. That's really interesting. I didn't hear of that before at the end of a meal. And it totally makes sense in regards to the tongue and the taste buds. Yeah.
I learned that from Dr. Baswati recently. She keeps bringing this up, and I'm like, okay, I get it now. And when you actually try it, like the other day, I cooked asparagus, and asparagus is astringent.
Yeah,
it's very much season now. So I actually left the asparagus to eat it at the end of my meal. And I felt that satisfaction. It's like it really signals to your body. It's like this is the end of the meal.
Okay, I'm going to experiment with that. I think that's great tips. Is there anything else you want to add, Divya, that we didn't get to discuss before we finish up here?
Well, I think we covered a lot of ground.
We covered a lot of ground. And I think this is a great conversation because I get a lot of questions on meal portioning. And I think the mindful eating, it's challenging in today's world because we are so distracted and we have so many forms of distraction. But I think that if we really make a practice of this mindful eating, blocking our schedule away from our work and just focus on our food for that 20 plus minutes and really make it a beautiful act of awareness and nurturing for your body. We talked recently in a recent episode about the importance of nurturing. This is a really important act of nurturing for ourselves. So respect yourself enough to give yourself that peaceful time at lunch that you're really paying attention to what you're eating, paying attention to your food, and we promise you will enjoy it a lot more, and this will be something that you will really treasure and look forward to. And your body will love it, and your digestion will appreciate it.
Yeah, you feel light and energized after your meal, not heavy and tired and sluggish. So true. But also, I mean, you said it so beautifully, Colette. Thank you. And this is by doing this, we really develop our own intuition, our own body wisdom with our relationship with food. And then we will know intuitively what is the right portion for me today. Again, it may vary because of your physical activity and everything else, but there is no set portion for anyone. Even for you, our portions vary depending on the different factors that we discussed. But you have the ability to listen to your own intuition and to know this is the right portion for me today.
Exactly.
And be emotionally strong to say no. Like sometimes you go and you're a guest and your host keep filling your plate and you're like, oh, I keep eating because I cannot say no. It's not polite,
Yes, exactly.
You have the strength to say no in a loving way and really respect your body and your mind that they've had enough.
Yeah. Okay, beautiful. Divya, thank you so much. And before we finish up, please let people know where they can find out more about you and your offerings, please.
Oh, yes. So, well, if you're in New York City, please come to Divya's Kitchen. We'd love to feed you very nourishing food. It's always freshly prepared with wholesome ingredients. We don't use anything that's nutrient depleted. And And you can practice mindful eating at our restaurant. Nobody will bother you. Even you can eat with your fingers, even if you want to.
Fantastic.
And also at our website, divyaskitchen.com, you can find our pantry products. We have khichdi, kits, and ghee, cultured ghee. And in a month or two, we'll be releasing a few new products. And these are all items to help you easily prepare Ayurvedic meals at home. Check it out. We're offering a discount code, as always.
Wonderful.
It's Elements of Ayurveda 15. And you get 15% off your first purchase. And I am taking a sabbatical from teaching because I'm teaching a culinary training and then I have to focus on finishing my new cookbook. So the last cooking class I'm teaching is on June 8th.
Oh, okay.
And then we'll probably resume again in September. But we'll be offering other cooking classes. So please check also our website, nonprofit school website, bvtlife.com. And there are also recordings of previous cooking classes that you can view. So if you like to learn more about the actual cooking part, you can learn from bvtlife.com.
Wonderful, wonderful. And you can find all those links in the show notes. So just go on over there and I will get you over to divyaskitchen.com and bvtlife.com. Divya, as always, a pleasure. Thank you so much. And take good care of yourself. I'm glad you're taking a break and putting all that energy into your new cookbook, which I'm very excited to see soon.
Thank you, Colette. Yeah, I think it will be a very nice cookbook, and I can't wait to share it with the world.
Wonderful, Divya. Okay, well, take care of yourself. Happy writing, and I look forward to chatting with you again soon.
Thank you. Bye-bye, everyone.
Bye for now. Bye. I hope you enjoyed that conversation with Divya. Please check out the show notes for the links to Divya's Kitchen, BVT Live, and of course that very generous discount code that Divya offered. If you think that this episode will be helpful to family or friends, please share it with them. And if you're interested in my online cleanses, consultations, or educational programs, please check out the link in the show notes or visit elementshealingandwellbeing.com. Don't forget to subscribe or follow the podcast wherever you listen to your podcast, and the new episodes will automatically download for you. And if you'd like to rate or review the podcast, I would really appreciate that. Thank you so much for tuning in. And until next time, take good care of yourself, be well, and bye for now. Slán go fóill.